There is a unique spell that rangers have access to at level 9 called Lightning Arrow, though you can also gain this ability from the Hellfire Engine crossbow in Act 3 as well. With this being a unique spell, I was curious if a build could be centered around this ability, and that's what today's video is all about. Warning, this build is mainly for people going from Act 2 into Act 3, since this build doesn't really get started until you get level 9 in Ranger. The concept of this build is to play as a Ranger that also has the capability to set up CC for their allies or to follow up with double damage Lightning Arrow Burst. My starting stats are on screen now. If you plan to use Sharpshooter and have 20 dexterity at the same time, you will have to use ability improvement alongside the Hag's Hair. If not, then you can simply use Athlete and ability improvement to get your dexterity to max, but then you will be lacking Sharpshooter. For my favorite enemies, go whichever you want. I ended up going Bounty Hunter, and I also went with Beast Tamer in order to gain Find Familiar. Subclass wise, you can pick whichever you want of the three, but my recommendation is Gloomstalker. Alright guys, so for armor, because this is such a late game build, realistically you want to use whatever armor that you want as you level up. Once you do get to Act 3 though, here are some fun combinations. You have the Amulet of the Devout. This is nice because then we will have 2 charges of our Channel Divinity, meaning we can use Lightning Arrow twice for maximum damage, which is very powerful, especially considering it does do AoE. We have the Ring of Elemental Infusion. That way, whenever we do Lightning Arrow, we then apply lightning damage to our next weapon attack, whether it's with our bow or with our melee attack as well. For those that like using concentration spells, the Strange Conduit Ring will give you an additional 1d4 psychic damage. If you'd rather have more utility when it comes to CCing your targets, I would recommend the Band of Mystic Scoundrel instead. Helm, of course, is the Helm of Arcane Acuity. Cloak, use whatever you wish. Cloak of Protection is just my default. I went with Armor Agility that you get in Act 3 because it gives me a ton of AC. Gloves of Belligerent Skies if you want to debuff the enemy. Feel free to use anything else if you don't want to utilize this though. There's plenty of great gloves that add extra damage. And the boots I went with were actually boots of striding. That way I can never be knocked prone or moved against my will when concentrating here. And we do have quite a few different spells we can utilize here for concentration. So for the Ranger side of things, you have your Fear, you have Pass Without a Trace, and Spike Growth, Hunter's Mark, and Snaring Strike. Pretty much all these spells are things that are concentration, so it's nice being able to use these and not have to worry about anything else. On the Cleric side of things, these spells that I like utilizing depends on the type of ring that you use. If you are using the Band of Mystic Scoundrel, after you attack, you can use Command, you can use Hold Person, you can use Silence, all as a bonus action, making it very powerful to have some additional CC there. Of course, you could use what you want, but those are like my go-to spells. Sanctuary is very powerful as a defensive option. Of course, Create Water to debuff the enemy. And I like adding Spirit Weapon in case I do want to have a little extra damage or a target for the enemies to attack as well. Alright guys, for the combat showcase, there will be a couple of different scenarios like the last video, but before we start, I do want to show that I did have the 1d4 Thunder here added to the Hellfire Engine crossbow, and that's simply by using the Drake Throat Glaive buff to give it just the extra 1d4 Thunder. Alright, for those who just want to do extra damage with the Strange Conduit Ring, which is something you could do really early on since you do have a lot of concentration spells with the Ranger and Cleric, you take a look at your spell list. The number 1 spell to do this with early on if you are a Ranger is probably Spiked Growth or Hunter's Mark. Either of those work really well with it. Of course, once you do get your Cleric levels, if you want to be really defensive, you could go with Shield of Faith. If you want to do it for Bless or something else, feel free, but I do think Shield of Faith is really nice defensively. Instead though, for this combat showcase, I want to showcase the combat with the Band of Mystic Scoundrel because this is when things get really fun in my opinion and opens up the utility for this build more so than you would normally think. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Create Water on everyone to kind of just get them all wet and make sure I'm going to debuff everyone and they're already prepared. I'm going to use my Potion of Speed. So now I can go ahead and attack. I could use a spell, whatever I wanted. I say we open up by simply using something fun. So I'm going to use my spiked growth here. I like having this on the ground just to set up an AoE field. Enemies will take damage, the movement's slower. It's a great way to open up. So now let's go ahead and use Dread Ambusher ranged. I'm going to attack this guy in the back. So it did some okay damage, but it did give me my Arcane Acuity stacks as well, which is nice, which is what I want. And because that is an attack that you get for free, this will automatically set up my hold person now or anything else that I wanted that I can use as a bonus action. So I could do fear, I could do my hold person, I could do command, and I could even do silence as well. All of these are concentration spells though, so once I use these, my spike growth will go away. But instead, I say let's go ahead and just use lightning arrow since we already have at least one stack of arcane acuity now. So in order to do that, I can do the one that comes with the weapon, or I could use my spell slot. We're going to use the weapon one first, just because it's automatically upcasted. These guys are all in range, so we'll use it on her in front of us. We will use Destructive Wrath to get maximum damage, and we will auto crit as well. And you can see that was a good amount of damage I just did, and this guy is almost dead as well. So now for my bonus action, this is when I could either choose to use my spirit weapon here to get him up, or because I did end up getting arcane acuity stacks, let's go ahead and try to use hold person instead. So I could upcast this, and if I upcast it, I can hit up to 3 targets. And guess what? We have 3 targets there. And all 3 of them are now in hold person. And for those who don't care about using the Band of Mystic Scoundrel to help support your allies for like hold person and other things like that, I am going to use the Strange Conduit Ring instead. I'm going to go to my spell book here and actually change one of my spells. So let's take off Silence, for example, and put on Shield of Faith. So right now I can go to my spell list here, rank 1, use Shield of Faith. You can see my AC goes up to 27. My attacks now do 1d4 psychic. I also, because of my boots, can't be knocked back, I can't be knocked prone or moved against my will whatsoever, which is really nice. I changed my gloves to just gloves of archery. Feel free to use whatever you want. There's just a way to get extra damage for my ranged attacks. So what I'm going to end up doing now is something that I think is really fun. So you can use Find Familiar if you want, like Find Familiar Cat, which is what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and meow. Get all these guys that move over. So what you could end up doing if you wanted to like distract enemies and stuff, that's one way to do it. So I'm going to leave my Find Familiar up there. Let's put him in a better spot this time. Maybe if I meow here, I can get all 5. All right, so they're in a really good spot. So what I'm going to end up doing now, I'm going to go ahead and use Create Water to get them all like wet, ready to get debuffed. The Ranger is coming as well, but the other guys will walk away before he can get there. So I'm just going to get them wet, use my Speed Potion, and now when I open up, I should be able to get all of them at once. Yep, I can at least get all these guys right here. And that was a lot of damage. You can see they are all almost dead from one attack right there, which in my opinion is just really, really strong. So what I could end up doing now, I could just follow up simply with Lightning Arrow again. You can almost get all of them. Unfortunately, the one character died, so he's slightly out of range. So let's go ahead and just do it here. That way I can at least get 3 people. We'll use Destructive Wrath again. They're all gone. I will use Dread Ambusher range on this guy in the back. That character's gone. Now we have just the one final guy all the way down there that we could deal with. I don't have any more attacks I could do other than using Perfectly Balanced Strike. Or if I wanted to be cheesy, I can put Sanctuary on myself. Start running up towards him. What's he going to do? Absolutely nothing. He can't do a single thing to me because I have Sanctuary. And that's the build, guys. Early stages of the game, you are a ranger, and as soon as you hit level 9, that's when things change a little bit to where you can do some fun elemental damage. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you're new, and comment what you want to see next. To all my members, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate all of you. If you want to get shoutouts like this during my videos, early access to my videos, and some additional perks for my live streams, hit join down below. I'm Ronan, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.